Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive. This time, we're heading back in time, way back to the 4th century, to follow along on this incredible pilgrimage by a woman named Egeria, who traveled all the way to the Holy Land. And,
Wow.
as a Catholic myself, I've always been fascinated by the idea of pilgrimage. But just imagine a world without planes or trains or even, reliable roads.
Right.
Egeria's journey would have been a true test of faith.
Absolutely. And what makes her story so compelling is that she documented the entire experience in a letter. So not just like a list of places,
Right.
She visited.
Like an itinerary.
Yeah, exactly. But vivid descriptions of the religious practices she witnessed and the emotions she felt.
Wow.
It's really a window into early Christianity seen through the eyes of a devout woman.
Okay, so let's unpack this a little bit. We know her name might have been Egeria,
Right.
or was it Egeria? What's the deal with that?
It's a bit of a scholarly puzzle. Some early manuscripts call her Egeria, but later discoveries point to Egeria. You can think of it like trying to piece together a historical mosaic.
I see.
Sometimes we're missing a few tiles.
Yeah.
But regardless of her exact name, what fascinates me is the strength of her faith.
Right.
She wasn't just sightseeing, she was on a spiritual quest.
Exactly. And speaking of quests, Egeria didn't stick to the, typical tourist route.
Yeah.
She was deeply devoted to experiencing these biblical narratives firsthand. For example, she actually followed the Exodus route, the path that Moses and the Israelites took out of Egypt.
And this is where it gets really interesting. We often read about these events in the Bible, but Egeria brings them to life. She stood at the foot of Mount Sinai where Moses received the 10 Commandments.
Oh, wow.
She even visited the place in Egypt where Moses was born. Can you imagine the impact of standing in that very spot, knowing its significance?
I'm getting chills just thinking about it. And it wasn't just about the big names either.
Right.
She visited some pretty obscure locations driven solely by her desire to connect with Scripture.
Yeah.
Take Mount Nebo, for example, the place where Moses saw the promised land before he died.
Such a powerful symbol of longing and fulfillment, and for Egeria, being there would have been an incredibly moving experience.
Yeah.
It speaks to the depth of her piety and her commitment to experiencing these stories in a tangible way.
Right.
She wasn't just reading about them, she was stepping into them.
It makes you realize that for someone like Egeria, these weren't just stories from the past.
Right.
They were living realities that shaped her faith.
Exactly. And it's this perspective that makes her account so valuable for us today. She provides a glimpse into the world of a pious early Christian whose faith was so intertwined with these locations and stories.
So let's talk about Jerusalem.
Yeah.
I know you've done a lot of research on this period.
Yeah.
What stood out to you about Egeria's descriptions of the Holy City?
Well, her account of Holy Week and Easter is absolutely riveting. She attended services at various churches, including the Holy Sepulchre.
Wow.
Imagine being present in those early churches, witnessing the very beginnings of traditions we still practice today.
Speaking of traditions, Egeria gives us incredible details about the rituals and ceremonies of the time. She describes the veneration of the true cross on Good Friday, the elaborate baptismal ceremonies during the Easter Vigil, even the hymns they sang.
What's fascinating to me is how her account allows us to trace the roots of our modern Catholic practices.
Right.
For example, she describes the all-night vigils held during Holy Week.
Wow.
A tradition that has evolved over the centuries, but still resonates with us today.
It must have been such an intense experience, a complete immersion in the spiritual significance of those holy days.
Absolutely. And her descriptions are so vivid that we can almost feel the weight of those moments, the collective devotion, the power of those early liturgical practices. And, her journey wasn't limited to Jerusalem.
Yeah.
Egeria was driven to visit locations tied to biblical figures like Mount Nebo, where Moses glimpsed the promised land.
Right. And it wasn't just about retracing the steps of major figures.
Right.
She also sought out those whose faith endured tremendous trials. Like she journeyed to the tomb of Job.
Wow.
Talk about a testament to perseverance.
Yeah.
What I find so inspiring is that she undertook these journeys not out of simple curiosity, but out of a profound desire to deepen her understanding of God's workings through these figures.
It speaks to a perspective many of us might find unfamiliar today. We might view pilgrimage as a primarily personal experience. Right. But for Egeria, it was also about engaging with the historical reality of her faith.
Yeah.
These weren't just stories, they were events that took place in specific locations, and by being present in those places, she sought a deeper connection to the divine.
And these journeys weren't without their challenges.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, we're talking about traveling in the 4th century, relying on the hospitality of strangers, navigating uncertain terrain. It really highlights the importance of community and trust in her journey.
Absolutely. She frequently mentions the kindness of local monks who provided her with shelter and guidance and information about the sites she visited. These interactions underscore the role of monastic communities in early Christianity, not just as centers of spiritual practice, but as vital hubs and a network of support for pilgrims.
It makes you wonder, didn't it ever get lonely for her to be so far from home, dependent on the kindness of strangers?
Well, her writings don't really dwell on loneliness. In fact, she seems to have had a knack for connecting with people. She writes about the monks she encountered with warmth and respect, highlighting their knowledge of scripture and their devotion to God. It suggests that she found solace and companionship within these communities of faith.
One place I'm particularly interested in is Edessa. It's not as well known as Jerusalem or Mount Sinai. But Egeria's description of it really captured my imagination.
Edessa was a significant early Christian center, and for Egeria, it was a place where history and legend intertwined. It's where she learned about the fascinating story of King Abgar, who supposedly corresponded with Jesus himself and received a miraculous image of Christ's face on a cloth.
It's such a powerful story, the idea that Christ's image could heal and offer protection. I can see why this legend would have resonated with early Christians. What are your thoughts on the role of these types of stories in shaping early Christian faith?
That's a great question. It's important to remember that for people like Egeria, these legends were deeply intertwined with their beliefs. They saw them as evidence of God's power and intervention in human affairs. These stories weren't simply entertainment, they were woven into the fabric of their understanding of the divine.
So it wasn't about separating fact from fiction, but rather about finding spiritual truth in these narratives.
And for a Catholic audience today, it's fascinating to see how these legends, even if considered apocryphal, still offer insights into the beliefs and values of early Christians. They add another layer of meaning to our understanding of the faith's development.
One thing that strikes me about Egeria's writing is her constant reference to Scripture. It's like she's having a conversation with the biblical text, using it to interpret the places she visits and the events she witnesses.
It's a beautiful example of how Scripture was woven into the very fabric of early Christian life for Egeria. The Bible wasn't just a book to be studied. It was a living guidebook to her journal. She used it to make sense of her experiences and to deepen her connection to God.
And her descriptions of the Holy Land are so vivid.
They are.
You can almost feel like you're there with her. She talks about the terrain, the climate, even the smells. I can't help but feel a sense of connection. Imagining myself walking those same paths centuries later.
That's the power of her writing. She brings the past to life, allowing us to experience the Holy Land through her eyes. And for a modern-day Catholic, it's a powerful way to connect with the roots of our faith.
It really makes you think, in today's world with travel so accessible, it's easy to take pilgrimage for granted. But Egeria's journey reminds us that it's not just about reaching a destination. It's about the transformation that happens along the way.
That's a great point. Egeria's story highlights the power of place in shaping our understanding of faith. She didn't just read about these biblical events. She experienced them in a tangible way, walking the same paths, touching the same stones.
Like her faith became embodied through these experiences. It wasn't just an abstract concept. It was rooted in the reality of those sacred spaces.
Exactly. And while we may not all be able to make a pilgrimage to the Holy Land, Egeria's journey challenges us to think about how we can find those sacred spaces in our own lives.
So it's not just about physical location, but about finding those places, whether it's a church, a quiet spot in nature, or even our own homes where we can feel a sense of connection to something larger than ourselves.
Precisely. It's about creating those spaces where we can step out of our everyday routines and open ourselves to a deeper spiritual experience.
Another thing that strikes me about Egeria's story is the importance of community. She was constantly relying on the kindness of others, monks, bishops, fellow pilgrims.
Right.
It reinforces the idea that faith isn't just a solitary pursuit. It's something we share and nurture within a community.
I completely agree. Her journey highlights the interconnectedness of the early Christian world, the way people relied on each other for support, guidance, and fellowship. And that's a message that's still so relevant for us as Catholics today.
Yeah, we need those communities of faith.
Yeah.
Our parishes, our families, our friends to help us grow, to challenge us, and to remind us that we're not alone on this journey.
And it's not just about receiving support, it's about giving it as well.
Wow.
We each have a role to play in creating welcoming and supportive communities for others, just as the monks welcomed Egeria into their midst.
That sense of shared faith, of being part of something larger than ourselves, really shines through in Egeria's account. And I think it's something that draws many of us to Catholicism in the first place.
Absolutely. It's a beautiful reminder that our faith isn't just about individual belief, it's about belonging to a living tradition that connects us to generations of believers who came before us.
And speaking of tradition, I'm struck by how Egeria's journey resonates with the idea of pilgrimage that's so central to our Catholic faith.
Yes, her story reminds us that pilgrimage isn't just about the destination, it's about the journey itself, the challenges we overcome, the people we meet, and the ways in which our faith is deepened and transformed along the way.
It's like those lines from the Gospel of Matthew, where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, there am I among them. Egeria's pilgrimage wasn't just about visiting places. It was about encountering Christ in those she met, in the challenges she faced, and in the depths of her own heart.
Beautifully said. And that's the enduring legacy of Egeria's story. It challenges us to embark on our own pilgrimages of faith, to seek out those sacred spaces, to build meaningful connections, and to allow our hearts to be transformed by the journey.
Well, as we wrap up this deep dive into Egeria's remarkable pilgrimage, I'm left with a renewed sense of wonder and inspiration. It's a story that speaks to the timeless power of faith, the importance of community, and the transformative potential of pilgrimage.
And it's a story that invites each of us to reflect on our own faith journeys, to seek out those experiences that deepen our connection to God, and to embrace the adventure of living out our Catholic faith in the world today.